So our next talk is going to be general surgery residents are still interested in vascular surgery, a collaboration from Tulsa, University of Virginia, and Wake Forest. This is going to be presented by Kelly Kemp.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to present. It's an honor to be here, and it's an honor to co-author with some fantastic people. All right, so no personal financial disclosures. There is a significant shortage of vascular surgeons in the United States. And the projections for this shortage is that this will continue to worsen. In other words, the demand will grow faster than the supply. So why is that? Number one, we have an aging population. In the United States, the fastest growing age group is those greater than or equal to 75 years. Number two, we have a rising risk factor for cardiovascular disease, and the patients are now surviving their myocardial infarction. Therefore, we need more vascular surgery interventions. And then number three, we have a retiring workforce. Even though we're pooling in graduates for vascular surgery, vascular surgeons cannot work forever. So adding a little bit of salt to the wound, if we actually fix some of our access to care and healthcare disparities issues, which we want to do, this in turn will make us even further behind. So and therefore, our annual appraisal of our workforce recruitment and growth is imperative. So that's our objective for this study. We looked retrospectively at the National Residency Matching Program from the past 10 years, 2012 through 2022, applicant appointment years. This is publicly available data. We extracted and analyzed this using code 450 for vascular surgery. We looked at two cohorts, those applying for vascular surgery residency and those applying for a vascular surgery fellowship. We considered the number of applicants, positions offered, and applicants unmatched, and then did some simple linear trend analysis for each category for fellowship or for residency. All right, so looking at some of the results. The positions offered in vascular surgery have increased over the past 10 years, 161 in 2012 and 202 in 2022. The integrated residency positions were the ones that increased these spots, 43, so 41 in 2012, and it doubled, more than doubled in 2022 at 84. Fellowship positions, however, have remained stagnant, 120 in 2012, 118 in 2022. And interestingly, programs have doubled for integrated residency and were unchanged for fellowship. So plotting out the data for residency positions, and then we calculated an average trend. So the average trend increased by 4 each year for residency positions. The trend for fellowship increased by 0.5 each year, but this was not significant. You can see it looks like a horizon line. Number of applicants increased overall, 98 applicants. For the integrated residency, it certainly increased, 82 applicants in 2012, 168 in 2022. For vascular surgery fellowships, the applicants also increased, 131 in 2012 and 143 in 2022. Here is the plot for the vascular residency applicants, and on trend analysis, applicants increased 9 per year over the 10-year time period. Fellowship applicants increased 1.5 per year over the time period. Residency was significant, fellowships were not. And then in thinking about a successful match, and just considering 2022, programs had a very successful match because 100% of programs filled, but on the flip side, there were a significant number of unmatched applicants, 84 for residency and 25 for 2022. This was the highest number of fellowship applicants that went unmatched out of the entire time period that we looked at. And then thinking about it another way, what is the average per year of unmatched applicants over this 10-year time period? 59 residency applicants and 15 fellowship applicants. Here is the plot for unmatched applicants for residency, and the trend calculated per year is increased by 4.6 each year, and for fellowship increased by 0.3 each year. Again, fellowship was not statistically significant. So taken in total, there is a huge supply and demand disparity here. So there are a number of applicants, a significant number more than the positions offered for integrated residency. And though our trend for the 10 years for fellowship was not significant, I would argue that we are moving in the same direction for fellowship over the past 3 years. And you can see 2020, 2021, and 2022, if you look at the orange and black lines, there is a gap. So in conclusion, applicants for both vascular tracks have increased since 2012, indicating successful recruitment. In 2022, all programs filled, leaving many applicants unmatched, including the highest number of unmatched applicants seen over the 10-year time period. Residency positions have continued to expand, while fellowship positions have not. With the demonstrated rise amongst all applicants and a disproportionate lack of increasing training positions and the existing shortage of vascular surgeons, there is an urgency to meet the increasing demand. A concerted effort, therefore, should be made toward adding additional fellowship positions as well as residency positions. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you very much. We'll start taking questions from the audience. Mal?
Mal Shayan, LSU. Dr. Kemp, that was an excellent presentation, and you and your co-authors should be congratulated for looking at this important issue. Two things. So we have to address virtual interviews, right? Because that's a huge part of this process. And, you know, not everyone agrees. There are people in this room who disagree with me regarding virtual interviews. And the reason it's important is because of how the match works. And so the match is more efficient when you have more people in it, and you can have more people in it when it's done virtually. This is indisputable from the last 3 vascular matches, integrated and fellowship, have all been 100% filled, and that's never happened in history. So as we go forward, I think it's important for you to look at that, particularly with that fellowship match, because they haven't filled a fellowship match 100% since I was a fellow. So that's particularly interesting. The second thing is and this is actually a question. So when you look at the NRMP numbers, you are only seeing the people who are in the match. So it's kind of a poor variable to study when looking at interest in a specialty. So you should really go and check the ERAS numbers, because the ERAS numbers are people who have applied. So the numbers are going to have increased during virtual matches because simply by the fact that there are more people in the match now, more people getting interviews because of how the virtual process works. It's easier. Programs are offering more spots, they're interviewing more people, so more people are in the match. So if you look at the ERAS numbers and trend them over time, you'll get a much better sense of how many people are actually applying and interested in vascular surgery. So did you guys look at those numbers? And if not, I'd suggest you would.
I really appreciate it. We didn't look at the ERAS numbers, and just a personal plug, I'm a huge fan of the virtual interviews, especially for the fellowships. It's very interesting, I think, how it's going to shake out. But I know the general surgery residents anecdotally often say, I'm so glad I don't have to pay to travel.
Kelly, thank you. Really nice work. Matthew Worcester from MUSC. A couple of questions for you. One is, we've had an increasing number of applicants. There's also an increasing number of residency spots as a whole for general surgery and students as a whole. Do you have any idea whether there's been an increase as a percentage of the total student or general surgery applicants into vascular versus just being part of the absolute increase in number of people who need to find a spot? The second question is, do you have any sense of where people are coming from? What I mean by that is, one of the challenges we've seen, we've been very successful in getting people into vascular residencies. We've had 4 out of the last 5 years, we've sent a student. We have not sent a general surgery resident to fellowship in over a decade. And so the third question along the same lines is, any comments or suggestions you have for how we organize our services when we do have both vascular residents and general surgeons to still give them an experience and encourage them to want to go into fellowship?
Oh, I appreciate both of those questions. So to answer your first question very briefly, we didn't look. So I think that's a really good point about who overall is applying. And I think that it's very common, just from talking to my colleagues across the country, that there is a little bit of a battle on how to entice the general surgery residents, as you're also training both your residents and then your fellows. But I think there's still a really smart way of being inclusive and doing it. For instance, if you have, this is a very small example, but if you have a fellow or a senior resident, and they're going to do maybe a case that's a little bit more elaborate from an endovascular standpoint, maybe the general surgery resident, especially if it's a chip shot and straightforward, can get access and have like a plan ahead of time what they are in charge of doing. If you give some ownership, it's always well received, I've found. So it's one of the ways that we're working really hard to do for our general surgery residents too. But there's always this tension and divide, I would say.
Hi, Matt Smith, St. Louis. I appreciated your talk. I really liked the data saying that maybe we need more fellowship positions. Matt Wooster kind of stole my question, but we recently did a survey on a fourth-year general surgery residents, and we found that a significant number of them, 40%, thought they had inadequate exposure to vascular surgery. And that was just for people who wanted to be general surgeons. And the people that had less satisfaction with their vascular surgery rotation were people who were in programs that had fellowships or integrated residencies. And so I think it's a simple thing to say we need to create more fellowships, but actually I think the more important thing to do is to engage general surgery residents earlier in their education and to get them interested in vascular surgery during their general surgery. So more of a comment, because Matt took my question. Jerk.
I appreciate that, though, because I think you're right. So all of our incredible recruitment efforts that have been so successful can easily be applied to the general surgery resident as well. And that means early mentorship and so on, and exposure. Those are the two things when you look at the literature that are very consistent.
Hi there, Sharnaz Dasboy. I'm an integrated resident at Stanford. I really enjoyed your talk. I guess a comment and then a question. I guess first, I imagine there's a delicate balance we're trying to strike between being a competitive specialty and then also wanting to open the door and fill as many spots and give access to vascular surgeons to as many of our patients as we can. So I suppose that's my comment. The second part is I'm really interested in those unmatched vascular surgery, I guess, resident positions. And I think the NRMP data that they do tell you things like board scores and if students double applied into both general surgery and vascular. So could it be that those unmatched, what do we know about those unmatched applicants, I guess is my question. Maybe they fell on some of the lower board scores. Maybe they were more interested in general surgery than vascular and double applied.
Yeah, I wish I knew the answer to that. I'm very curious as well. And there's some postulations potentially that those vascular surgery unmatched residents that went into general surgery potentially could be applying for fellowship. But we were talking about this a couple days ago. It's not clear what happens. So I think that's something that we could suss out even better. But I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kemp. Great talk.
Great.
Are we going to move on?